The laughter was sharp. It cut through the classroom like glass. "Say it again, Maya." "Come on, say it like you did before." The boy in the back row, Tyler, was grinning, eyes full of mockery. Maya froze, her hand still holding the pencil mid-air. Her throat tightened. I said philosophy," she stammered softly. But the way she pronounced it, slightly rounded vowels, a trace of her mother's Ghanaian accent, made the room erupt again. Laughter, snickering, even a few whispers that felt like knives. Why does she talk like that? She sounds dumb. Where's she even from? The teacher, Ms. Reynolds, glanced up from her desk. She said nothing, just went back to her laptop. Maya felt her chest burn. She wanted to disappear. She had moved to Atlanta only 6 months ago. A new school, new faces, same cruelty. Her heart whispered the words she couldn't say out loud. "You don't know me. You don't know who I am. If you're watching this, tell me where you're from in the comments, hit like and subscribe, because this story, it's one you won't forget." The bell rang. Students rushed out, leaving her behind, head down, hands shaking. She waited until the room was empty before whispering to herself, "They think I sound stupid." What they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the girl they laughed at spoke 5 languages, fluently: English, French, Spanish, Twi, Arabic. Languages she'd learned from traveling the world with her father, a linguistics professor. She could switch accents effortlessly when she wanted to, but she'd chosen to keep her natural voice, the one that carried her family's rhythm and warmth. That day, though, their laughter made her doubt everything. At lunch, she sat alone, pushed her tray away untouched. She heard Tyler's voice echoing from another table. "Hey, Maya, teach us how to say stupid in your language." The group burst out laughing again. Maya clenched her fists under the table. Her nails dug into her palms. She wanted to scream, but instead she whispered quietly to herself, "One day, they'll see." That night she went home silent. Her mother noticed. "Maya, what's wrong?" She hesitated, then broke. "They laugh at me for how I talk, for who I am." Her mother placed a gentle hand on her cheek. "They mock what they don't understand. But your voice, Maya, your voice is power." Maya wanted to believe that, but in that moment it just hurt. The next day, something happened that none of them, neither Maya nor her classmates, would ever forget. When the school announced the upcoming international speech competition, every student laughed, except Maya, because she knew exactly what she was about to do. The next morning, the whispers began before Maya even reached her seat. "She's the accent girl," someone said. "Say that word again, Maya." Another mocked, voice dripping with sarcasm. Maya kept her head down. Her steps were slow, quiet. She could feel eyes on her from every direction. When she sat, her notebook slipped from her bag and landed open on the floor. Tyler picked it up before she could. "What's this?" he asked, flipping through pages filled with strange words and symbols. "Is this code?" "It's just notes," Maya muttered, reaching out to grab it. He held it away. "Nah, look at this, guys. What is this?" "Merci beaucoup." "Asante?" "Man, what language is this?" His friends laughed again. "It's French," Maya said quietly. "And Swahili." That stopped them for a second. But only for a second. "Whoa, look at her, little Miss Translator," one boy said. "You think you're smarter than us, huh?" Maya didn't answer. She just took her notebook back and placed it in her bag. Her heart thudded like a drum. That's when Ms. Reynolds walked in. "Everyone quiet down. Let's begin." But she didn't say a word to the boys. Not even a glance. And that silence spoke louder than any insult. By lunchtime, the mockery had a rhythm. They mimicked her accent. They turned her name, Maya Mensa, into a joke. "Maya Mumble," Tyler said, and the group erupted again. She sat at the corner table, alone, pushed a fork through mashed potatoes. Her appetite was gone. 2 girls passed by, whispering, "She's weird, always writing in those languages no one understands." If you've ever felt like an outsider, like your voice wasn't enough, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to hit like, because Maya's story is just getting started. After school, she walked home in silence, each step heavier than the last. She could still hear the laughter echoing in her ears. When she entered her small apartment, her father looked up from his desk, surrounded by open books and maps. "Hi, my little linguist," he said with a warm smile. But Maya didn't smile back. She dropped her bag and sat on the couch. Papa, she whispered, why do people hate the way I talk? He closed his book slowly. Because they only know one sound of the world, Maya, and you carry many. She looked at him, confused but comforted. I don't want to sound different anymore. He shook his head gently. No, my girl. You don't change your voice to fit small minds. You make them listen. That night, Maya opened her notebook again. She began writing a new poem, each line in a different language. It read, "They laugh at my sound, but my sound is the world. When I speak, I am home everywhere." She didn't know it yet, but that poem would one day silence the same people who mocked her. The next morning, Ms. Reynolds announced something that would change everything. The school is hosting its annual international speech competition. Sign-ups are on the board, and in that moment, Maya looked up, eyes calm, voice steady, and whispered to herself, "This is it." The cafeteria was a storm of voices, trays clattering, sneakers squeaking, laughter bouncing off the walls. Maya sat at the far end, near the vending machines where the noise blurred into a dull hum. Her lunch was untouched. A half-eaten apple, a carton of milk gone warm. Across the room, Tyler and his friends were holding court. Every word out of his mouth was loud enough for her to hear. Bro, imagine her trying to give a speech with that accent. The table exploded with laughter. She'd probably say, "Ladies and gentlemen," one boy mocked, dragging out every syllable. The whole table leaned over laughing. Maya tried not to react. She focused on her tray, on breathing, in, out, in, out. But their laughter kept clawing at her chest. She stood to leave. Her chair scraped the floor too loud. Every head turned. The room went still for half a second before the whispers started again. Where's she going? Can't take a joke? Miss Translator's mad now? She walked out fast, eyes burning, and she didn't see Ms. Reynolds standing near the exit, holding her lunch tray, watching everything. Maya ended up outside, sitting by the edge of the field. The air smelled like grass and wet dirt. Her notebook rested on her knees, her handwriting trembling. She started to write. Words were her only way to breathe. When they laugh, I shrink a little. But my words, they don't need their approval. They're bigger than their voices. If you've ever eaten alone because someone made you feel small, hit the like button. Because Maya's story is about to prove that silence can grow into something powerful. Maya, a voice came from behind. It was Jasmine, a quiet girl from her class, always with headphones on. Hey, Jasmine said softly. Can I sit? Maya nodded. For a while, neither spoke. Then Jasmine said, I just wanted to say, they're jerks. You're cool. I like your accent. Maya blinked, surprised. You do? Yeah, it's different, but in a good way. It sounds like music. Something small and warm flickered inside Maya. It wasn't happiness. Not yet, but it was hope. That night, Maya wrote again. This time, not just in her notebook, but on her heart. She wrote, one friend is louder than 1,000 laughs. But the next day, that fragile hope would be tested again, because Tyler wasn't done. Not even close. During English class, as Maya stood up to read her essay, Tyler held up his phone, recording her. And when she started to speak, he whispered loud enough for everyone to hear, World's funniest accent. Take one. The class roared with laughter. And Maya froze. Maya's voice trembled. The words she'd carefully written on paper suddenly looked blurry through the tears she fought to hide. Tyler's phone camera stayed fixed on her. Red light blinking. Laughter bouncing off the walls. Go on, Maya, Ms. Reynolds said without looking up from her desk. Continue your essay. Maya swallowed hard. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Her throat locked up. The laughter grew louder. Someone whispered, she forgot how to speak. Another said, guess the accent broke. Maya stood there frozen, heart hammering, palms sweating, eyes darting to the door like she wanted to escape. And all the while, her teacher sat there, typing, not one word of defense, not one glance of support. Finally, Maya whispered, can I sit down? Ms. Reynolds sighed. If you're not ready, then yes. But next time, please come prepared. Prepared. That word stung more than anything else. Tyler grinned and slipped his phone into his pocket, satisfied. And for the rest of the day, Maya didn't say another word. After class, she lingered behind. The room was empty except for Ms. Reynolds, who was collecting papers. Ms. Reynolds? Maya said quietly. Her voice cracked. Why didn't you say something? The teacher looked up. Say something about what? Them laughing. The video. Ms. Reynolds sighed, pushing her glasses up. Maya, teenagers laugh. Don't take it personally. You just need to fit in a little more, that's all. Maya blinked, her heart breaking one slow crack at a time. Fit in? She repeated. By not being me? But Ms. Reynolds didn't answer. She just turned away, muttering something about her next class. That silence. It was louder than every insult. Outside, Maya walked down the hall with her notebook pressed to her chest. Every step echoed. Every face felt like a stare. She reached the bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and sat on the closed toilet seat. Her notebook fell open in her lap. On one page, she had written, "My voice is my power." She tore it out, crumpled it, threw it into the trash. And for the first time since she'd moved to America, Maya cried like she couldn't stop. If you've ever been let down by someone who should have stood up for you, comment, "I understand." Because this part of Maya's story hurts, but it's the pain that changes everything. When the bell rang, she wiped her eyes and headed to her locker. But as she turned the corner, she stopped cold. Tyler was there, laughing with two friends. And on his phone screen was her video, her trembling voice, her accent, her humiliation. He hit send. And just like that, the video was gone. Shared, posted, out in the world. That night, Maya's phone buzzed nonstop. Dozens of notifications, hundreds of comments, and one message that made her blood run cold. Go back to your country, accent girl. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. Her phone kept lighting up, each notification a new wound. Why do you sound like that? Can you even speak English? Go home. Lowell, her accent is broken. The video had gone viral among the students. Hundreds of shares, thousands of laughs. Her name, Maya Mensa, was now the school's favorite punchline. She turned her phone face down on the desk and stared at the ceiling. Her throat ached from holding back tears. She didn't want her parents to hear her cry again. At midnight, she got out of bed, pulled out the old leather notebook her father had given her when she was 9. It was worn around the edges, soft from years of use. The first page read, "For every word they mock, write 10 more that make you proud." Dad Maya opened to a blank page and began to write. "They don't hear my heart when I speak, only the shape of my words. But one day, I'll make them listen." She wrote until the paper blurred from her tears. The next day, she walked into school with her head down. The laughter had gotten worse. Phones pointed at her from every direction. "Hey, Maya!" Tyler called out. "Say something for TikTok." His friends howled with laughter. Maya didn't answer, didn't even look up. She just walked straight past them, clutching her notebook like a shield. At lunch, she sat in her usual corner. Jasmine joined her quietly, setting down her tray. "You saw it too, huh?" Maya asked, her voice small. Jasmine nodded. "They're cruel. I reported the video, but it's still spreading." Maya nodded slowly, then whispered, "I'll show them something worth sharing. If you've ever been humiliated online and still found the strength to rise again, hit the like button. Because what Maya does next changes everything." That afternoon, during free period, Maya found an empty classroom. She closed the door, stood in front of the mirror, and opened her notebook. She began to speak, softly at first, then stronger. English, French, Spanish, Twi, Arabic. Her voice moved between them like water, flowing, beautiful, confident. Each language carried its own rhythm, its own music. And with every word, Maya felt something inside her repairing itself. She realized something powerful. Her accent wasn't a flaw. It was proof of everywhere she'd been, everything she'd learned, and everyone who loved her. When she finished, she whispered to her reflection, "They'll hear me soon." She didn't know how. Not yet. But she knew she would speak again, on her terms, and the world would listen. Later that week, an announcement came over the intercom. "Students interested in the international speech competition, please submit your name by Friday." Maya looked down at her notebook, then stood up, walked to the front office, and wrote her name on the sign-up sheet. When she turned around, Tyler was standing right there, smirking. "You?" he sneered. "This is gonna be fun." The sign-up sheet hung on the bulletin board by the main office, a thin white page filled with neat handwriting. Names of confident students, popular ones, kids who loved being seen. And there, at the very bottom, was Maya Mensa. The moment she walked away, whispers started rippling through the hallway. "Wait, Maya signed up? The accent girl?" Does she even know what a speech is? Tyler laughed the loudest. Man, I hope they let her talk first, so we can get the comedy part out of the way. The laughter that followed was sharp and cruel. Maya didn't turn around. She kept walking, but her hands were trembling. That night, she sat at her desk, notebook open. Blank pages staring back. What do I even say? She whispered to herself. How do you find words when your voice has been used against you? Her father knocked gently on her door. Maya? It's late. She looked up, startled. Sorry, Papa, I was just writing. He sat beside her, eyes kind but tired. Speech competition, huh? He said with a smile. She nodded slowly. They'll laugh, she said. They always do. He leaned forward, voice low and steady. Then make them laugh for the right reasons. Let them see your brilliance before they realize what hit them. Maya smiled faintly. That night, she began to write her speech in 5 languages. Each paragraph a reflection of who she was. Each word, a reminder that her voice was more than an accent. By the next morning, the entire school knew. Maya's name was the new gossip. Some students were curious, others cruel. At lunch, Jasmine slid into the seat across from her. You really signed up? Maya nodded. I have to. If I don't speak, they win. Jasmine smiled. Then I'm helping you practice. And just like that, Maya didn't feel as alone. If you've ever decided to fight back not with anger, but with excellence, comment rise below, because this is where Maya's courage begins to bloom. The next few days passed like a blur. Everywhere she went, Tyler was there, mocking her, whispering behind her back, mimicking her voice. It was exhausting. But when Maya was alone in her room in front of her mirror, she practiced. Again and again, switching languages effortlessly, shaping every sound with pride. Bonjour, mes amis. Mi nombre es Maya Mensa. Me da semno yene ayenninakaho. My name means hope. Each time she said it, she stood taller, stronger. Friday morning came fast. The sign-up deadline. Names closed. When Maya reached her locker, she found a note taped to it. The handwriting was bold and messy. You'll embarrass yourself. Save us the secondhand cringe. Maya crumpled the paper. She didn't even flinch. She looked at her reflection in the locker mirror and whispered, they don't know who they're dealing with. Later that afternoon, Ms. Reynolds announced the competitors in class. As she read Maya's name, the class erupted in laughter, but then she added something none of them expected. This year's judges include Dr. Mensa, renowned linguist and guest speaker. The room went silent. Maya's father, the man who taught her to love her voice. Tyler's smirk faded instantly. Maya just smiled. The moment Ms. Reynolds said it, Dr. Mensa, guest judge, the classroom changed. The same students who'd laughed seconds ago froze. Even Tyler's grin cracked, his smirk faltering like he'd seen a ghost. Maya sat quietly, eyes steady, heart pounding. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. When the bell rang, whispers followed her down the hallway. Wait, that's her dad? Dr. Mensa? The linguistics professor? I've seen his TED Talk. For once, the laughter was gone, replaced by something else. Curiosity. Maybe even respect. But Maya didn't care about that. She wasn't doing this for them. She was doing it for herself. That evening, she found her father in his study, surrounded by stacks of books and open maps. Papa, she said, stepping inside, why didn't you tell me you were judging? He smiled without looking up. Would you have signed up if you knew? Maya thought for a moment. No, probably not. Then I made the right choice, he said gently. You did it for you, not for me. She smiled softly. But deep inside, her heart was still tangled in doubt. What if I mess up? What if they laugh again? He closed his book, turned to her, and said quietly, Maya, you carry the sound of your ancestors in your voice. Every accent, every tone, it's history singing through you. Let them hear it. Those words stayed with her. If you've ever had someone remind you who you really are when the world tried to make you forget, hit the like button and tell me who that person was in the comments, because sometimes one voice from the past can change everything. That night, Maya sat at her desk again. But this time, instead of writing alone, she opened her father's old recordings, audio tapes of him teaching languages in universities around the world. His voice filled the room. Language is not just sound, it's identity. It's memory. She listened for hours, then slowly began piecing her speech together. A journey through her own voice. A story told in English, French, Spanish, Twi, and Arabic. each language representing a piece of her story. By midnight, she had it. Her heart raced as she read the first line aloud. "When you laugh at my voice, you laugh at the world inside it." Her words echoed through the small apartment. Her mother peeked in from the doorway, eyes soft with pride. "You sound like your father," she said. Maya smiled. "I sound like me." The next morning, Maya walked through the school halls with her notebook pressed to her chest. People stared, but differently now. There was curiosity instead of mockery. But Tyler wasn't done. He leaned against the locker as she passed, smirking again. "Your dad might save you, but your accent won't." Maya stopped, looked him right in the eyes, and said quietly, "I don't need saving." Then she walked away, leaving him speechless for the first time. That afternoon, while Maya was practicing in the empty music room, someone opened the door quietly, holding up a phone. It was Tyler, recording again. Only this time, he had a new plan. The music room was quiet except for Maya's voice echoing softly off the walls. She stood by the piano, reading from her notebook, her voice strong but calm. "My name is Maya Mensa. I come from many places, and I speak in many voices." Her words moved like rhythm, switching languages, flowing effortlessly between English and French, from Spanish to Twi. She didn't notice the door open. Didn't see Tyler's phone camera pointed at her from the hallway window. He smirked. "Let's see how Accent Girl sounds when the whole school hears her little speech." Later that night, as Maya finished her dinner, Jasmine texted her. "Jasmine, Maya, you need to see this." Maya clicked the link. Her stomach dropped. There it was, a video of her rehearsal. Edited with mocking subtitles. Every time she switched languages, the captions flashed words like alien talk, broken English, LOL. What is she saying? And the comments? They were worse. "Stick to one language, girl. She sounds like Google Translate having a seizure. This isn't talent, it's torture." Her hands trembled. She turned the phone off and stared into the darkness. Why? Why did they hate her so much for sounding like herself? She wanted to delete her name from that competition sheet. Wanted to run away, disappear. If you've ever been mocked for something you can't change, your voice, your skin, your roots, tell me in the comments, "I feel this." Because what Maya feels right now is something many of us have lived. The next morning, she didn't go to school. She couldn't. She stayed home, staring at her reflection in the mirror. The girl staring back looked tired, lost. But there was something else behind the sadness. A quiet fire, refusing to go out. Her father knocked softly. "Maya?" She didn't move. He stepped in, saw the tears, and knew. "They laughed again, didn't they?" She nodded. He sat beside her, voice low. "When I was your age, people mocked my accent too. They said it made me sound uneducated. But now that same voice gives lectures at Harvard." He turned to her, eyes full of calm power. "You can let their laughter define you, or you can turn it into your echo." She didn't speak, but her hand tightened around the notebook. That evening, she walked back to school after hours. The halls were empty, the world quiet. She slipped into the music room again. This time, she placed her phone on the piano and pressed record. She began her speech, every word clear, every tone alive. She didn't whisper anymore. She owned it. When she finished, she uploaded the video herself. Title, "My Accent is Not a Mistake." And then she went home. No hashtags, no filters, just her truth. By morning, her video had thousands of views. But what she didn't know yet was that it had reached someone powerful, far beyond her school. A famous journalist had just shared it with the caption, "The most beautiful voice I've heard in years. The world needs to listen." By sunrise, Maya's phone was buzzing nonstop. Hundreds of messages, thousands of comments. Her notifications scrolled endlessly, lighting up the room like stars. But this time, the words were different. "Your voice is beautiful. I cried listening to this. Please don't ever change how you speak." Her heart pounded as she scrolled. Then she saw it, a blue check mark beside a name she didn't expect. Nadia Reed, journalist, a well-known TV reporter. Her caption read, "A student mocked for her accent just gave the most powerful multilingual speech I've ever heard. America needs to hear her." The post had 2 million views. Maya's breath caught. Her hands shook. She didn't know whether to smile or cry. Her mother came in, holding her phone. "Maya, is this you?" "You're everywhere, look." She turned on the TV. There was a news clip playing. Maya's video. her voice filling the screen. Her father stepped out of his study, eyes wide with disbelief and pride. "That's my girl." Maya covered her mouth with both hands. Tears spilled down her cheeks. After weeks of humiliation, the same voice they mocked had become her power. But at school, not everyone was celebrating. Tyler walked through the halls, phone in hand, watching the same video play over and over. His smirk was gone. His friends avoided eye contact. By lunchtime, the whispers had flipped. "Did you see Maya's video? She's famous now. She's incredible." When she walked into the cafeteria, the room went quiet. The same people who used to laugh now stared in silence. No one said a word. Maya walked to her usual table, head high this time. Jasmine grinned from across the room. "You did it," she whispered when Maya sat down. Maya smiled softly. "Not yet. If you've ever turned someone's hate into your power, drop a chop B in the comments. Because Maya's rise is just beginning." Later that day, Ms. Reynolds called her into the office. "Maya," she said, shifting awkwardly in her chair, "the principal wants you to open the international speech competition tomorrow. You've become somewhat of an inspiration." Maya nodded, calm. "I'd be honored." Ms. Reynolds hesitated. Her eyes flicked with guilt. "Maya, I should have said something earlier about the way they treated you." Maya didn't say anything for a moment, then softly replied, "It's okay, Ms. Reynolds. I think I found my own voice." That night, Maya rehearsed one last time, this time not in secret, but in her living room, while her parents listened. When she finished, her mother wiped a tear. Her father smiled proudly and said, "Tomorrow, let them meet the genius they never saw." Maya took a deep breath, feeling her strength return. No more fear, no more hiding. Tomorrow the world would see who she really was. The next morning, the auditorium filled with students, teachers, and guests. Camera crews lined the back wall. Maya stood behind the curtain, gripping her notebook, on the other side of that stage. Was everyone who had ever laughed at her, and as her name was called, "Maya Mensa, please come to the stage." She took a deep breath, stepped forward, and whispered to herself, "This is my turn to speak." The auditorium was packed. Parents, students, teachers, and even a few reporters filled every seat. Camera flashes flickered like lightning across the room. Maya stood backstage, palms damp, heart pounding. She could hear the muffled chatter of her classmates, the same voices that used to mock her. Now they were waiting for her to perform. Jasmine squeezed her shoulder. "You've got this, Maya. They're not laughing anymore." Maya smiled nervously. "I'm not doing it for them," she said quietly. "I'm doing it for every kid who's been told their voice didn't belong." The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. "Next up, representing Brookstone High, Maya Mensa." A hush swept across the crowd. Maya stepped into the light. Her shoes clicked softly on the wooden floor. She could feel hundreds of eyes on her, some curious, some skeptical, some waiting for her to fail. She reached the podium, opened her small notebook, and took a breath. The microphone crackled. Then she began, softly at first, "Good morning. My name is Maya Mensa, and for the longest time, people told me my voice didn't sound right." A ripple moved through the audience. She continued, switching to French mid-sentence, then Spanish, then Swahili, then back to English. Every word clear, confident, and proud. Gasps filled the room. Students leaned forward, whispering. Even Ms. Reynolds' eyes widened. Her speech flowed like poetry. She spoke about language as identity, about how accents aren't mistakes, they're stories. "When you mock how I speak," she said, her voice strong now, "you're not laughing at my words. You're laughing at where I come from. But my accent isn't broken English. It's the sound of a girl who carries 4 worlds in one heart." The audience went silent. You could hear a pin drop. Then Maya paused, looked straight at Tyler, sitting in the 3rd row. "I was told I should sound more American," she said, her tone steady. "But maybe it's America that should start listening to more voices like mine." A single clap broke the silence. Then another. Then the entire room rose to its feet. Thunderous applause shook the walls. Maya stood frozen, tears glistening in her eyes. For the first time, they weren't laughing. They were listening. Backstage, Jasmine ran up and hugged her tight. "You did it! You owned that stage!" Maya laughed through her tears. "I didn't think I could." Her parents joined them, both crying and smiling. Her mother whispered, "Your grandmother would have been proud." "You spoke in her tongue." Maya nodded softly. "I think she was with me." Later, as the judges announced the results, everyone already knew. First place, Maya Mensa, Brookstone High. The crowd erupted again. Even Tyler stood, clapping slowly. Maya accepted the trophy, not for the award, but for the moment itself. A moment that said she belonged. That night, Maya's inbox exploded again, this time with messages from schools, organizations, and even TV shows. One stood out from the rest. "We'd love for you to speak at the Youth Voices Summit in Washington, D.C. Maya stared at the email, hand trembling. From being mocked in a classroom to being invited to speak on a national stage, she whispered to herself, "This is just the beginning." The hotel ballroom in Washington, D.C. gleamed under soft golden lights. Hundreds of students from across the country sat in rows, name tags clipped neatly to their jackets. On the stage, a massive banner read, "Youth Voices Summit, the Power of Language." And at the center of it all, Maya Mensa. She stood backstage, clutching her small notebook, the same one she used back in that high school hallway, the same one that held every word they once mocked. Her mother adjusted her blazer. Her father whispered, "Speak from the heart, Maya. That's all you need to do." The announcer stepped up to the mic. "Please welcome Maya Mensa, student, linguist, and advocate for language diversity." The applause was immediate. Cameras flashed. The crowd rose to its feet. Maya took a deep breath and walked into the light. She looked out at the sea of faces, young, old, black, white, brown, all waiting to hear her. Then she began. "A year ago, I stood in a classroom where my voice was a joke. My classmates laughed when I spoke because my accent didn't sound like theirs. But what they didn't know was my voice carried the sound of 4 continents." She paused. You could hear nothing but the hum of the air conditioning. Then she switched languages, effortlessly. French, Spanish, Twi, Swahili, each sentence flowing into the next like music. Some people gasped. Others whispered in awe. She continued stronger now. "We talk about diversity like it's a picture on a brochure, but real diversity is in the way we sound. It's in the melody of our words, the rhythm of our roots." She pointed toward the audience. "When we laugh at someone's accent, we're not just mocking their words, we're erasing their story." The words hit hard. A hush fell. Even from the front row, Tyler, who'd flown in with the Brookstone delegation, lowered his head. He couldn't look at her. Maya looked right at him, not with anger, with grace. "To those who once told me to speak properly, thank you, because you taught me that my voice doesn't need your permission to be powerful." The crowd rose again, thunderous applause shaking the hall. Some people cried openly. Even the judges wiped their eyes. After the speech, a woman approached her, the same journalist, Nadia Reed. "Maya," she said warmly, "you have no idea how many people you've inspired. We're featuring your story on CNN tomorrow." Maya blinked, stunned. Her voice, the one she once tried to hide, was now a headline. Outside the venue, under the cool night air, Jasmine caught up with her. "You know what's wild?" Jasmine said, laughing softly. "You never changed your accent. You just changed the world's ears." Maya smiled, tears in her eyes. "I didn't need to change. They just needed to listen." That night, back in her hotel room, Maya stared at the city lights through the window. She opened her notebook again, the edges worn, the ink fading. At the top of a blank page, she wrote, "Chapter 1, The Girl Who Spoke Too Many Languages." She smiled, because now her story belonged to the world. A new email pinged on her phone. Subject, UNICEF Youth Ambassador. Invitation. Maya's hands trembled. She whispered, "Grandma, I think they finally hear us." The morning sun streamed through the hotel window, painting golden lines across Maya's face. Her phone buzzed again. Dozens of new messages, interviews, invitations. But this one was different. From UNICEF Global Outreach Subject, "We would be honored to have Maya Mensa as our new youth ambassador for linguistic diversity." Her heart skipped. She reread it twice, her hands shaking. This wasn't just another opportunity. It was the moment everything had led to, from being laughed at for her accent to being invited to represent voices across the world. Maya exhaled slowly, whispering to herself, "This is for every kid who ever felt like their voice didn't belong." A week later, she returned to Brookstone High. Her old school looked smaller now. The same lockers, the same walls that once echoed with laughter at her expense. When she entered the hallway, everything stopped. Conversations went quiet, phones lowered, eyes turned. She wasn't just Maya anymore. She was Maya Mensa, the girl who changed how they listened. Tyler was waiting by her locker. He looked nervous, shifting on his feet. When she walked up, he spoke quietly. "Maya, I wanted to say I'm sorry. For what I said. For what I did." His voice cracked. "I didn't understand. I thought it was funny." "It wasn't." Maya studied his face, the same one that once smirked while she cried. Then she nodded gently. "I forgive you," she said. "Just promise me one thing." He looked up. "Anything. Next time you meet someone who sounds different, listen before you laugh." Tyler nodded, eyes downcast. That moment, quiet and sincere, said more than words ever could. Later that day, the principal invited her to speak to the entire school. The auditorium filled, every seat taken. Maya stepped up to the podium once again, this time not trembling, not afraid. She looked out at the faces before her and began. "I used to think I needed to sound like everyone else to be accepted. Now I know. The way I speak is part of who I am. Your accent is not a flaw. It's a fingerprint. It tells the world where your soul has been." Her voice carried strength and warmth, filling every corner of the hall. So, to anyone who's ever been told their voice doesn't fit, don't change it. Teach the world to hear it. The audience stood, teachers, students, even Ms. Reynolds, applauding her words. Some were crying, some smiling through tears. Everyone listening. That night, as Maya packed for her UNICEF trip, she slipped her notebook into her bag. On the last page, she wrote, "They mocked my accent, but my accent became my anthem." She closed it, smiled, and looked out the window at the night sky. Somewhere out there, a little girl was whispering words she was too afraid to say, and Maya knew she'd just helped her find the courage to speak them. Racism doesn't always shout. Sometimes it laughs. Sometimes it hides behind words like proper or normal. But every voice, every accent, every tone carries history, pride, and truth. And when the world learns to listen, we all grow stronger together. What would you have done in Maya's situation? Have you ever been judged for how you speak? Tell your story in the comments, because your voice matters too. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that prove every accent has power.